You're not as good as Pavlov's dogs, not nearly. I know you're tired, busy weekend, I get it. What's that?
Pavlov's dog did 21 times to get it right. And a treat. Yeah, and a treat. Hello.
I'm your treat. Welcome to First Parish. First Parish. We hate to brag, but doesn't the name really say it all? I think so. We work hard to be a modern community welcoming to people of all creeds and races and sexual orientations and gender identities. My name is Steve Wilson. I'm your pastor and playing worship assistant today. In tribute to the hardworking folks who founded this community years and years ago, and then the not too far back generation of people who rebuilt the church with pencils and blueprints and their stained fingers, I would encourage you to turn off your cell phones as an unfair advantage. People are invited to a fellowship after the service. We have a board meeting this week. We also have a trip to Sturbridge Village. And I want to thank those who came to the theology discussion group yesterday and all those who came to the memorial service and the concert, which I did not come to. But anyway, I invite everyone to greet your neighbor. Just say hello and have a little moment of chaos. Our responsive call to worship is number 593 in your gray hymnals. Timely, I believe. Words from Desmond Tutu. "593. Liberation is costly. Even after the Lord had delivered the Israelites from Egypt, they had to travel through the desert. There was starvation and thirst, and they kept complaining. Many of them prefer the days of bondage and the flesh pots of Egypt. We must remember that liberation is costly. It needs unity. We must hold hands and refuse to be divided. We must be ready. Some of us will not see the day of our liberation physically. But those people will have contributed to the struggle. Let us be united. Let us be filled with hope. Let us be those who respect one another. Our chalice words come from the Oberlin UU Fellowship. We light this chalice to find inner peace, love for each other, and faith in ourselves. Also to be welcoming to whoever we meet and kind to all living creatures. So gather around this light of hope as we share this time together. My opening words are very brief. I never redid them. Here they are. I started to pull this service together a week after Biden's disappointing performance in the presidential debate in late June. As I read these words again, I will know more, but still not enough. And that's true. Please join me in our opening hymn, 137, We Utter Our Cry.
I'll play the whole thing through once.
Words you might have noticed from 1937, reminder of the legacy of the challenges we face. I invite you to find a still spot in your heart to drop down into your space. Take some nice, slow, deep breaths. Source of sources, sweet spirit of light and love, help us bear witness to the pain of those we mark as others. Unclench our fists so that we can applaud the tenacity and triumphs of those we repeatedly marginalize. Pour acceptance and strength into our hearts and lead us to share them with those we carelessly exclude and devalue. May it be so. Amen. Asante. Blessed be. Let's just be in the stillness of this beautiful space. Now time for joys and concerns. I invite those who wish to come forward to drop a stone and share what's on your heart.
Rubber circle white.
Oh.
Can you move on right now? We'll do prayer later. My digital thing is not working right now. I just have to restart. Sorry.
We'll do the offertory. And with the offertory comes a little false history about First Parish and Olga, interestingly enough. Back when Rochelle was the minister about 25 years ago, she was engaged in having a women's Athenaeum speaker series. And she needed to fund that series. So it happened to be Olga's first day. This is not a true story. She was asked to come, and Rochelle then planned it out very well and gave her quick directions. She said, I want you to think about something to play when it's time for the announcement about money for this annual Women's Athenaeum that I want to start. And Olga was nervous and said yes. Rochelle stood up, she paused, she steeled herself. She said, brothers and sisters, we have an opportunity to make a difference, and we need $2,000 for a women's fund for an Athenaeum. at that moment, Olga misunderstood Athenaeum and heard, and Rochelle said, all those who are willing to donate $100, would you please stand up? And at that moment, having heard anthem for Athenaeum, Olga played the national anthem. Everyone stood up. They raised all the money and more they needed, and Olga was immediately hired by Rochelle, and that is a piece of untrue history of which we have our offertory. So in the spirit of that fake lore, please give generously to the life and work of this church. No.
Digital things just don't work sometimes. All of a sudden it shows a different music. All shall be well, and all shall be well.
wonder how they came up with a title for that. Beautiful.
This reading is by Ethel Hurlbert. It is not always easy to find love at the center. It is not always easy to find love at the center. There's not a set of easy instructions numbered 1 through 7, or maybe 8. It's not always easy to find love at the center. Today in Covenant, we celebrate our living tradition, which invites us to take deep breaths of fresh air into the newness of every day, so our minds, hearts, and spirits will be continually nourished. It is not always easy to find love at the center. So for today, we gather in covenant to celebrate the reality that love is at the core of our beings, and that love will guide us if we open ourselves to the challenges which love requires of us. May we accept this challenge with dignity and grace. Amen, and blessed be.
Again. No, I'm just gonna. Maybe I should.
Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on
Emma's Revolution just played in Concord last night, believe it or not. Yeah, just last night. This sermon was hard, has a few parts or acts. The first is a journey of the sentiments and contradictory thoughts that happened in the first 24 hours of the election. Maybe they will resonate with you, I hope so. They stand alone. Oh God, please, no. I must live in some kind of weird bubble. I really thought she was going to win. Damn, this feels like that gross November Wednesday morning 8 years ago. What's wrong with my fellow Americans? Don't they know? Is it that they don't know, or is it they don't care? Slow burning, feelings of sadness, moments of sort of bursted anger. The perplexing thought, how can the promise that the price of eggs drops be more important than the overt threat being faced to democracy itself and people's well-being? Or is that my privilege talking? I didn't do enough. Perhaps worse, that feeling that I can't think of anything I would have done in the last 3 months that would have not felt like a waste of time, given $1 billion was spent by both parties collectively in Pennsylvania, and they basically voted like every other swing state did. Well, this is going to be interesting. Interesting like discovering on a hike that there's this bear slowly following you. How could a person so consistently say things that would disqualify them or get them kicked out of being a high school gym teacher be the choice of 300 plus a million Americans? I wonder if we'll have any more real elections. Did they have to win the Senate and likely the House too? Thank God I live in Massachusetts. I remember cynically saying to myself, well, it's a good thing we're not at an ecological tipping point and need every country on earth to be committed to the incredibly difficult transition required not to erode the one planet we can live on. How can people not see that we are called morally forward, not backwards? How can people not see that? This too shall pass. There's no chance Biden would have done better, is there? Is it 'cause she's a woman? It doesn't feel right, but obviously I can't trust my instincts on this. Do poor people really think he's going to help them? Do they? Act 2. I was driving here one day before the election, and I was talking to my good friend Kelly on the phone, and I just I got like this, talking about how, you can have a political opinion on matters, anyone you want, but you can't call it Christian. So this is a little homily I'd like to deliver to Joel Osteen's church in Houston, or any evangelical gathering would do. Wake up. You're supposed to be Christians. That title, comes with a certain standard of impulse control and prudence. Good Samaritan, Jesus challenging those who want to cast the first stone to look at themselves. Sermon on the Mount, the Beatitudes, the poor will always be with you. It's not that confusing. The call to lift up the inherent dignity of those you're least likely to see dignity in is what it's called to be a Christian. If you're going to call yourself a follower of Jesus, you have to side with the poor, the most vulnerable, not attack them. And if you're not doing something resembling that and not the opposite, you're not doing it right. You should know that. So if you haven't heard it before from this pulpit, the people at the border are primarily not criminals, not drug dealers. They're just poor people who want a better life for their kids. So before you buy into the idea that the morally right thing to do is to be tougher on the less fortunate of all stripes, allow Jesus to help you challenge that comfortable instinct. Yeah, our immigration situation is a mess, unequal, unfair, unjust. So before you over coffee and friends testify to how soft the Democrats' immigration system is, just imagine. Jesus calls you to imagine scenarios all the time. Imagine over coffee what it's like to ride on the top of a crowded train from Panama North with a kid under your arm because you're desperate and scared, not because you want to visit Vegas, and spend everything you have to pay some coyote to sneak you across the border, to get caught, separated from your kid, and put in a detention center. Not that soft. You know, the funny thing is, we in churches I serve, who, admittedly, it's odd that I'm standing in front of this church, lean left, we have no easy answers for the problems we all face. We know that. The reason we want to extend rights and protections to trans people and women and minorities and worry about the situation in Gaza and want to fund the Ukrainians, the reason we want to be a little softer on the desperate people in the border is because we care about them. My people can't help empathizing with them as humans. That's it. Neither could Jesus. We're not crazy. We, like him, are just trying to do an impossible situation, and in an impossible situation, find a little kindness. Please try that. We don't endorse criminal behavior any more than you do, except maybe now. We don't. If someone's a criminal at the border, we don't let them in. Same for abortion. We aren't encouraging anyone who wants a kid to not have one. We're just trying to keep a lifeline open for a woman who finds herself pregnant and does not have the wherewithal to raise that child. So stop. There's nothing in the Bible that talks about abortion or offers any guidance. Remember that. And now for most of you who think you've won, congratulations. And with it, you've now inherited the challenging job of constraining your leaders from their worst instincts. That's on you now. A "we're sorry" 20 years from now is not going to feel any different to the next generation of Americans born today than the one the surviving Germans did 20 years after the war. It's not. If you're going to call yourself a Christian, you have to pause and ask how you're being. How like Jesus are you being and thinking? Act 3 for us. We survived the Civil War. We got through World War I, the Spanish flu, the Great Depression. We got through Vietnam, civil rights, all the drama of generational political divisions in the 60s. We fought in World War II. We got through the Gulf War, its reboot. Got through 9/11, the mortgage-driven financial crisis in 2008 and 9. We got through the first Trump presidency. We'll get through this too. We will. America always pushes forward and then pulls back. Our job is to push forward towards a greater moral openness, drawing the circle wider. I know it's hard, it hurts. Absolutely, this is a time to safely feel like you can lick your wounds and be together. But the deepest of all wisdoms is that this too shall pass. And the second is that it is our job to ensure that it does. After all, over the last 60 years, all the efforts that are being made right now are undoing gains that have been made. Really, mostly. Oddly enough, also, after all the rhetoric, let's not forget, most Americans want abortion to be legal, most Americans believe in gay marriage now, and although not enough, most Americans are offended by narcissistic lying leaders. They are. Sometimes justice takes longer and requires more energy than we wish, maybe always. But let me ask you, are you less committed to honoring the inherent worth and dignity of everyone today as opposed to Tuesday? No, you're not. You're not. Are you as confused as it may be in detail that at the international level we should be collectively building cultures that allow for peace, real peace in the world? I doubt it. I'm not. Are you any less committed to democracy than you were Tuesday? Probably not. If you don't mind me speaking for you, you're not. You're just disappointed that just a very small but important, sadly small percentage of Americans didn't lean our way. No mandate was given. When we woke up on Wednesday, was the nature of our true interdependence with others and with the precious, fragile planet we live on less true? Do you, since the election results became clear, any less believe that people should be engaged in their own responsible search for truth and meaning as we, as an individual, would define that? I don't. Do you think the principles that guide nations and religious institutions should be a concern for justice and peace, interdependence, generosity, and love as our new flower image calls us to? I doubt it. We lost a round, an important one, but our values will creep forward because they are the highest truth. They are higher truth. And as Reinhold Niebuhr says so poignantly, nothing worth doing is completed in our lifetime. Therefore, we must be saved by hope. Nothing true or beautiful makes complete sense in the immediate context of history. Therefore, we must be saved by faith. Nothing we do, however virtuous, can be accomplished alone. Therefore, we are saved by love. Our last words come from Barbara Kingsolver.
Barbara Kingsolver said, "Truth and love have been smacked down so many times, more times in history before today. Truth, as we know, because it's inconvenient, and love because it's vulnerable. But truth is like gravity and carbon and the sun behind the eclipse. It's still there. And love stays alive if you tend it like a flame. If you feel crushed by unkindness today, it's a time for grieving, for reaching out to loved ones, noticing one bright color somewhere in the day, remembering what there is to love, starting with the immediate, the place and people we can tend ourselves and make safe. We can't save everything all at once, but it's still worth saving something because there are so many of us to do it. And we are all still here today, exactly as we were yesterday, like gravity, like carbon, and the sun behind the eclipse.
Amen. Please, standing in spirit, if not in body, for our closing hymn. 396, I know this rose will open. 396. John Douglas Traversa says, in a world filled with the darkness of ignorance, let us bring the light of reason. In a world filled with the darkness of despair, may we share the light of hope. In a world filled with the darkness of hate, let us shine the light of love. Go in peace. Be